Some of these new houses I'm going to introduce you today have some great smelling fragrances. On top of that, some of them have amazing presentations. So I've got a bunch of different fragrances here, some multiple ones from some houses that I really fell in love with, and some houses with just one fragrance, but all great new fragrances. And all fragrances, well, I should say most of these fragrances I have not spoken about on the channel yet. So if you're curious to learn about some new fragrances and new houses, this is the video for you, so please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yesterday we're talking about bunch of different fragrances and new houses. As I said, some of these fragrances, most of these fragrances I haven't spoken to you about. One or two of them I probably have spoken about here and there, but all great fragrances from unique houses. And I think some of the fragrances you can buy here in the States, some might be a little more difficult, but definitely worth seeking out. So let's go ahead and get started with an Italian house. And I've got two fragrances from this house that I'm going to talk to you about. We're speaking about a house called Giardini di Toscana. And we've got Bianco Latte and we've got BORABORA. And I just discovered while I was in LA that this house is selling at Lucky Scent, so it's going to be fairly easy to buy. Let's talk about Bianco Latte. Before we talk about Bianco Latte though, I should let you know this is going to be a very long video, but I have timestamps, but you can skip through and you know, find specific brands or fragrances you want to talk about. But this Bianco Latte is quite delicious. Bianco Latte, I believe, pretty much stands for, you know, white latte. It could refer to milk as well, but let's go ahead and smell it. I'll show you the bottle right here. The presentation's pretty nice, and the fragrances seem very refined from what I've smelled. I've smelled the entire collection, and these two really stood out. And if you like milky fragrances, this is definitely going to satisfy. This is kind of a powdery take on a milky gourmand fragrance, lactonic fragrance, and it features notes of caramel, tonka beans, vanilla, white musk, and honey. So it's sweet, but not uber sweet, but definitely sweetness there. Very powdery, and you can very much experience the milkiness here. I also feel like there's a bit of heliotrope in here, kind of giving us the boost of powderiness and also like some light almondy touches as well. But a great fragrance here. This is Bianco Latte from Giardini di Toscana, meaning or referring to like Tuscan garden, I'm assuming. And this is BORABORA. BORABORA is a tropical fragrance, super delicious. To me also, when I smell this one, it reminds me a bit of carnation. I'm not sure where I get the carnation from, but definitely does remind me of carnation. And look at the cap, has the name also, as you can see up there. But that's BORABORA, and these fragrances, like I said, I did discover at Lucky Scent Scent Bar, and if you guys are in the market, you can always go smell them there if you live nearby or order samples. This is a delicious fragrance, really, really delicious. In fact, I said at the beginning, very refined fragrances. These two are totally standout, and there are a few others that really stood out as well. But they smell very refined, very classy, very sophisticated, and also very Italian. If you like the idea of Italian niche perfumery, definitely check this brand out. It's Ylang-Ylang, Tiare flower, coconut milk, vanilla, apricots, jasmine, white musk, Jasmolactone, caramel, amber. Really delicious. So it's a beachy, tropical, floral, but milky as well. And also I'm getting carnation. Not sure where I get the carnation from, but it's a super delicious fragrance. And I want to explore the house further, but these two are super fantastic. So it's Giardini di Toscana. We've got BORABORA and Bianco Latte. Those of you that know this house, do let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out if you're familiar with it. I'm sure if you guys are in Italy, you might have discovered this house. Very beautiful fragrances. I can't believe how great the fragrances are, and those two are top notch. So moving on to a French / Middle Eastern house. This is a house I did discuss in a recent video about perfume bottles, and some of the most gorgeous perfume bottles that I have in the collection. This is REINE de SABA Divine Temptation. So it comes in a box like this, and on the back it's got the photo of the perfumer. And the house has so many fragrances, and I don't remember exactly how many. I discovered the house at a perfume shop, this brand at a perfume shop in Italy, and instantly it stood out as classy bottles. The bottles themselves, the glass part is kind of boring, but the actual caps themselves are very, very visually striking, so they really stood out. And this fragrance, among a few others, really stood out as well. This is a fragrance created by Matthew Nardin. Every single fragrance is created by master perfumers from all the different firms, whether it's Firmenich or IFF or Givaudan, and they've got Nathalie Lorson, and they've got Michel Almerac. I really liked Michel Almerac's fragrance. And this one actually was my favorite from created by Matthew Nardin. It's kind of a Middle Eastern ambery gourmand style spicy fragrance with cinnamon, rum, figs, cloves, Peru balsam, Guaiac wood, vanilla, patchouli, amber. Gosh, I didn't even show you the bottle. Here's the bottle right here. Look at that. It's very, very striking, visually striking, this cap. And you can see on the side here, the bottle itself, kind of boring. It's got, you know, writing on it, which with my bad eyes I can't really read. And then there's a logo on the front there. Turns out they have an actual store in Paris, which next time I go, I'm going to go, because I didn't know they had a store. I'd like to discover the brand a little more and really take my time with fragrances. But this one, REINE de SABA Divine Temptation, is super delicious. If you like warm ambery fragrances with you know, spices, and of course this one has figs. The figs kind of create a uniqueness with this fragrance. Definitely check out the house. Let me know if anybody knows this house. Have you discovered this house yet? Please put a comment down below so I can find out. I'd like to hear who has discovered the brand. They've got a lot of fragrances and all of them seemed pretty nice, but this one and the one created by Michel Almerac stood out really, you know, totally over the others, and that's why I've got the one created by Matthew Nardin, because the one created by Michel Almerac, I'm forgetting the name, is more of a fresh, warm fragrance. This one, definitely more of a solid, ambery, warm, kind of gourmand, spicy fragrance. Really delicious. It's Divine Temptation. So up next, we've got a house, another Italian house, and this time it's called, I think it's an Italian house. This is called Rajani, and it's called ASHANTI. Comes in a presentation like this. Kind of simplistic, but beautiful coloring. And then the bottle itself reminds me of the 80s. That's why I was kind of drawn to this bottle. As you can see, that's the bottle right there. This is a floral fragrance, and it utilizes white flowers. And out of the collection, I really enjoyed this one when I was first smelling. Look at the cap on top there. I want to circle back to sample the fragrance, the other fragrances further, but this is really wonderful white floral fragrance that I want to tell you about. This is featuring notes of tuberose with pink pepper, gardenia, oud, patchouli, spices, woods, and bergamot. So it's a very spicy tuberose fragrance. Pink pepper is pretty strong. There's a creamy factor about it because there's gardenia. Of course, under there's some kind of funky oud, but it doesn't overpower. There's spices here, and then there's also a bubblegummy vibe, and tuberose sometimes gives me bubblegummy vibe. So if you like the idea of a bubblegummy vibe in fragrances, definitely try this one. In the end, it's got, you know, the oud and the wood, so it settles to kind of an oudy woody thing, but it's that really overdose of tuberose, and you can notice the pink pepper. You can really, it's prominent, you know, meshed with the tuberose, and of course the tuberose and the gardenia creates for a bubblegummy effect. So this is Rajani ASHANTI. I don't know if you guys know this house. Do let me know. Put a comment down. Let's move on to PERNOIRE. This is VITIAS. So PERNOIRE, I did a quick video of this house while I was in Aix-en-Provence, and this is their fragrance, VITIAS. It's an ambergris fragrance, and this is how the bottle looks. It's a kind of a smaller house from Switzerland, I believe that's where they're from. And look at the back, there's some artwork. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the lighting is preventing it from, there we go. It's a seashell, so perhaps it's going to go into a marine direction, and obviously I'm not a big fan of marine. This one I really enjoyed. Let's give you my thoughts on this. It features notes of ambergris, white musk, lime, pink pepper, black pepper, marine notes, bergamot, iris, woods, Guaiac wood. So it's a kind of ambergris that I like. It's the kind of marine notes that I like. There's definitely lots of spice here and lots of musk. It has this kind of a citrusy presence as well. And you know, the marine notes in here, it's the kind of marine notes that doesn't smell too sulfuric or fishy. It's just the right amount. And even the ambergris, sometimes I'm really put off by ambergris. It can come off really sharp, metallic, very fishy, really rough and animalic. Here it's a beautiful blend. It also has some powdery touches and citruses to kind of blend in together with woods and Guaiac wood. This is fantastic. Really wonderful smelling. One of the best ambergris fragrances that I've put my nose on. And again, here, the back, it's got the seashell again. And I'm not the, you know, as you guys know, I'm not the kind of person that falls in love with marine fragrances quickly. But that one smells really wonderful. It's nicely balanced, has all the right kind of notes together to create for a wonderful fragrance. And I think 3 young guys, I believe, are behind the brand. I can't remember exactly. And I think they have 5 fragrances, and out of the 5, that one really spoke to me. That's why I'm talking about it for you guys. Let me know if you know that house, PERNOIRE. Put a comment down below. I'd like to find out. So on my travels, unfortunately, my box for this fragrance broke, so I can't really show you the box for this one, but we've got a house called Dorsey. I actually posted about them while I was in France. They have a beautiful store in Paris on the left bank. If you ever make it to Paris, it's really close to the taxidermy shop, and I'm drawing a blank with their name right now. But go visit the beautiful store. It's really beautiful. You can look at my Instagram account to see the store itself. But this is Dorsey's Sur Tes Lèvres EQ. Again, I'm not a French speaker, so I'm totally butchering what that says, but it's created by Dominique Ropion, and it's an Ambrette seed bomb. So very musky and spicy at the same time, and it's very classy. I find this house classy, just like I was talking about Ormond Jane the other day. Their fragrances are not the kind of fragrances that you will wear for beast mode to make for showstoppers, but there's some really classy offerings from this house, really great smelling fragrances. And this one, EQ, that's the initials it has right there. I'm going to basically call it EQ. But it's Ambrette seeds with pink pepper. There's jasmine, there's cashmeran, patchouli, and orris concrete. But a fantastic fragrance created by Dominique Ropion. I think this is Dominique Ropion from what I remember. It's super delicious and definitely worth getting your nose on. If you guys are in France, let me know if you've sampled this house, Dorsey. It's an older house that's been brought back, by the way. So it's kind of new for the last couple of years, but it used to be in existence from a long time ago. And it's the original dandy, is the guy that created Dorsey, the brand, and he was on the cover of the original New Yorker, the very first New Yorker magazine. When you see a guy on the cover dressed up like a dandy, that's the guy who created Dorsey, the brand. Anyway, that's what I was told. If you go to their store, you can find all this historic information on one wall, and they actually have a little bit of a museum-like setting there as well, with some glass cases of some of their vintage bottles from like 100 years ago and things like that. So it's definitely worth going to this store, not only to smell their fragrances, but to check out some of the history as well. So let's move on to a house called Alexander J. Do you guys know this house? Do you know Imperial Peacock? Comes in a box like this. This presentation is super over the top. Really beautiful. I really like their bottles. In fact, I featured this in Amazing Bottles video recently. But the presentation's maybe a little over the top. Here it comes with its own little rag. And then we've got this styrofoam type thing. Here is the box right there. Kind of golden, very kind of Middle Eastern, I think. They used to have a store in Cannes in the south of France, and in that store not only did they have their original collection, but they had these limited edition bottles. I posted about it back in 2019 when I visited that store, and they had the most amazing Art Deco bottles I had ever seen. I wanted some of them, but some of those were so pricey, over $600, $700, $800,000. But some of the most beautiful bottles I've ever seen. So this bottle is also gorgeous, not as gorgeous as those very limited edition bottles, but this is Imperial Peacock right here. And Imperial Peacock is a kind of a warm ambery fragrance with a light, very, very light, subtle, like ambroxan kind of Baccarat Rouge-like thing happening under there. So let's go ahead and quickly smell it. Like, it doesn't fully develop that whole Baccarat Rouge thing, but if you like this warm vanillic notes to develop into this kind of Baccarat Rouge-like experience, try this one. This is good. This is really, really good with vanilla. There's rhubarb, almonds, tonka beans, cinnamon, heliotrope, woods. There's a polished quality about this, and it's warm, but not too warm. It's a bit fruity. There's definitely the nuttiness here, and the spices and powdery touches and woods. Really, really wonderful fragrance. This one I actually sampled last year when I was traveling in France, and Javoy had just put this one out. Not only did it call to me with the design work of this bottle, but when I smelled it, I was like, that smells fantastic. Anyway, this is Alexander J. Imperial Peacock. Let me know your thoughts on this fragrance. Have you sampled it? Put a comment down below so I can find out. And let me know what you think about the presentation. Is it a little too much? Sometimes I really like presentation, but sometimes it can be a little too much. You tend to run out of space because they're just big boxes, as you can see right here. And the big presentation also creates for very expensive fragrances. So sometimes it might be a little too expensive to have all this presentation. Maybe just give me the bottle. So let's move on to a house called Orange Parfums and a fragrance called Callous Subtle or Subtil. This is Orange Parfums Callous Subtil. It's a house that I've spoken about quite a bit. In fact, I have a whole standalone video on the channel of some of their earlier releases. This one is a fragrance I featured recently in a floral fragrances video. And once again here, we've got this amazing floral fragrance with the sugary notes and something ambroxany, musky under the fragrance again. This one's a lot fresher than the Imperial Peacock that I just spoke to you about, and also much more floral because the other one is warmer, has warmer notes. But the presentation's quite amazing. I'll show you. Their bottles are like lightsabers. And then on the other side, look at, it's got an extra bottle here, so this goes inside in here. When the juice out of this runs out, under here you can open it up. It's got this kind of like thing that you can turn around with a coin, like a thick coin, and it turns and you pop it open, this fits in, and the old one obviously comes out. So the fragrance itself, let's smell it on camera real quickly. It smells really great, and I love it in the heat. When it's warm outside, it smells fantastic, but it's floral notes, white flowers, sugar, amber, moss, and musk. And there's definitely a fruitiness here, and I think those of you that love fragrances like Delina and things like that might really dig this one. But it's also very, very fresh. There's a milky quality about it. And then, of course, I'm getting a bit of that kind of ambroxan Baccarat Rouge-like thing. This smells fantastic, and I think it'll be perfect in the summertime when it's really warm outside. So that's Callous Subtle or Subtil from the house of Orange Parfums. Any of you know that brand? Let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out. But that's the presentation right there. A wonderful presentation from this house. Really unique bottles too. I haven't seen bottles like that before. Let me know if you've experienced Orange Parfums before. So up next, going to the house of Eternal Journey. This one I actually discovered at Javoy, just like I discovered Imperial Peacock last year. I discovered this line. They have 3 fragrances that were displayed there with the most visually inviting bottles. Here's what they look like. Right there. So this is my favorite of the 3 fragrances from this house. This one's called Sunset to Midnight right here. Very unique bottles, and it comes in a fairly simplistic presentation, but the bottles themselves totally stand out. And this is my favorite of the bunch, as I was saying, and this is kind of a fresh and warm incense. It features notes of myrrh, labdanum, frankincense, vetiver, apple, rum, iris, ambroxan, cypriol, musk, sweet notes, and great quality fragrance. Really love this one, and I think it smells great on me. And I wear it when it's warm a bit. I like this because it is a warm fragrance. It does have smokiness. It does have ambery touches, light fruitiness, and some, you know, booziness in there as well, but very, very powdery. And I like the way this smells. It's a great incense fragrance, but it has the musky touches, powdery touches for sure, and some sweet notes in there as well. I think it's a really, really great fragrance. It's my favorite from this house. Really love it. It's one of those incense fragrances that has warmth to it and some sweetness to it that is more inviting rather than completely cold and dark incense fragrance that's, for me, a bit difficult to wear because it makes it for a boring kind of an experience sometimes, and it'll remind you of church. But here, even though there's that hint of church there, the warmth that's in here is quite nice. I quite like it in this one. And I do like warm notes if you haven't already figured out. So next we've got a house called Spiritum. This is Solar Soul, and it's number 1. It's a new house. Apparently they just opened up a store as well in Paris. We'll have to visit it. But these come in these boxes made out of cork, as you can see. Have you guys discovered this house yet? There's Spiritum right here. So this is one of my favorites from this house I'm going to talk to you about. A fragrance created by Bertrand Duchaffoul. This is what it looks like back here. And on the front right there. I don't know if you can see this. It's a bit tough to see. But this is a fragrance created by Bertrand Duchaffoul, as I was saying. It features notes of amaretto, immortelle, oud, musk, figs, tea, clary sage, tonka beans, vanilla, driftwood, anise, benzoin, sandalwood. Let's go ahead and give it a smell. But it has the most amazing dry down on me. It starts off kind of gourmand and a bit oudy and also a bit animalic. When you first spray it, there's something animalic that comes through, but it dries down phenomenally. You can totally tell the complexity. It will remind you of fragrances by Bertrand Duchaffoul. He does complex fragrances. If you're familiar with his work for Penhaligon's and L'Artisan, you'll kind of get that this is a fragrance created by him. But it's super delicious. It's really, really great. Just be warned, it does have some animalics that when you first spray it. It might be a bit off-putting as well because it smells like a funky oud, animalic oud fragrance, but that goes away and the dry down is very, very heavenly. I really love it. So I'm going to talk about 2 different fragrances from a less expensive house with a more simplistic presentation. I actually discovered this house at Printemps in Paris, and I realized how great looking their bottles are. The fragrances themselves are not beast mode that like some of the fragrances I'm talking about today. They're more you know, classy presentations and definitely really great inspirations for the fragrances. I'm talking about a house called Carlotta Ray, and we've got 2 fragrances here. First, I'm going to talk to you about Palo Santo and Patchouli Vert, this one right here. My box is a bit damaged after bringing it back from Europe, but the fragrance lifts off like this, and the presentation is like a little flower. Unfortunately, it didn't really have that effect. And the bottles, really beautiful bottles, as you can see right there. I think the bottles are really great looking. So Patchouli, I'm sorry, Palo Santo and Patchouli Vert is definitely that. It's lots of woods and there's green notes and there's patchouli. Let's go ahead and smell this. They're refillable bottles, I believe. I believe they are. No, maybe not. I thought these were refillable. Maybe I'm wrong. But these bottles are super fantastic looking. Very Art Deco to me. What do you guys think? There we go. Definitely very woody green. Also light fruitiness there. And some booziness as well. So it creates for a green kind of patchouli. Earthy. It's not the chocolate cakey patchouli whatsoever, but again also simplistic and elegant and a really beautiful presentation. And the cool thing about these boxes are, if it wasn't you know, bent up, I can still do it though. When you pop this in back inside the box, it does make a clicking sound. If I can get that to work. So there's a clicking sound and it's caught so it won't fall out. So that's kind of a unique thing. So that one is Palo Santo and Patchouli by Carlotta Ray. And then we've got Myrrh and Bois Brûlé. Same house. This is a bit of a gourmand, but with a resinous myrrh note. A bit fizzy as well, because myrrh sometimes creates for a fizziness. Really beautiful bottles. They are a bit, they're really nice to hold too, because they're kind of thin and beautiful presentation. It's a great presentation, I think. This one has some fruitiness, resinous touches, and kind of maybe something like apple pie. You know, with the apple note and the fruity notes of apricot and green apple. Then there's star anise and things like that. It's a complex creation, but doesn't wear very, very heavy. It's kind of cozy and also resinous, but beautiful presentation, as you can see here. It's like a little bit of a flower. I don't want to open it up because I don't want it to fall, but that's how the bottles are for Carlotta Ray. If you guys know this house, let me know. I don't think they're very expensive. I've seen them at Printemps in Paris, and that's where I first discovered this house. Let's put this right here. So moving on to an Italian house called Narcisse Taormina, and this is Zuccarata. Really beautiful tile work on these boxes, if you can see. But other than that, it's a pretty simplistic box. This Zuccarata is an almondy, sugary gourmand fragrance. And those of you that love almondy fragrances should definitely check this one out. They also have a wine fragrance that I don't have here with me right now. But bitter almonds to the max. If you like the idea of bitter almonds, definitely here. It's also very powdery with heliotrope. And it's a given that they would combine almonds with heliotrope because they really boost up one another. So it's almonds, coconuts, sugar, vanilla, heliotrope, orange blossom, white musk. It's super delicious. This is the bottle right here. Let me know if you know this house. This is Narcisse Taormina Zuccarata. I'd like to find out any of you know that house. I believe it's a house from Sicily. Those of you that are Italian should probably know this one. Great house. They have some great offerings, and definitely Zuccarata is my favorite. And then we're going to end the video with 3 fragrances from one house that I discovered last year. Stellar Scents. Are you guys familiar with Stellar Scents? So we've got 3 fragrances. The first of which is called North, this right here. So the presentation is not necessarily the most, you know, loudest, I guess, like not like the Imperial Peacock from Alexander J, but still really beautiful bottles. And kind of simplistic boxes, I should say. North is beastly and intense with leather, cotton candy, raspberry. So it's kind of a leather fragrance that's been sweetened up with this cotton candy note and raspberry. This particular one does have a bit of a feeling of something like maybe like a light feeling of Ambroxan, kind of a Baccarat Rouge like thing. But the leather is pretty intense, and the cotton candy and the fruitiness creates for a very unique combination with that kind of underlying presence of something like Ambroxan. Really great fragrance, smells fantastic, really love that one. These 3 are my favorite fragrances from this house. I absolutely love them. I tested them out when it was really hot in France last year. They really shined on me, really long lasting, even though they're eau de parfum fragrances. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is Fire. And Fire is, so it's 2 collections. There's the red bottles and boxes and the black bottles and boxes. And Fire is musk, oud, and vanilla. Really long lasting. And I feel like it's a vanilla fragrance, but it's toned down with the oud and the musk. So it's not uber sugary, but really love the smell. Really love the smell of these. These are kind of intense fragrances. And I thought originally these were all extrait de parfum fragrances, but they're not, and they had great longevity. And I wear them in the heat, and even though they're like really intense fragrances, really wonderful longevity in the heat. And the last one is Earth. This one's super fantastic. Really love the way this smells. Let's see. Oh wow, yeah, it smells really great. This is a leathery oud with rose. That's pretty much it. There's definitely woods in there and some ambery presence as well, but it's sweet, but not overly sweet, because I think it's sweetened up with the rose, whatever sweetness there is in here. Perhaps there's a bit of vanilla, but this one on me smells fantastic. All 3 of these really great smells from the House of Stellar Scents, and that's the last fragrance I'm talking to you about. It's Earth. Those three from this house are amazing, guys. If you guys don't know Stellar Scents, check them out. All of these houses are brand new to me, and they probably are pretty brand new to you. They've got great fragrances. I'm pretty much highlighting all their great fragrances. Most of them are beast mode, but some of the brands don't have that kind of a presence, like the Carlotta Ray and the D'Orsay fragrances, to be exact. But the rest of them are, you know, if you're into the idea of very intense fragrances, those should definitely satisfy. If you know any of these fragrances, do let me know. I'd like to find out. And these are great to have and to wear next to your friends and relatives or whatever, and definitely to stand out, because they're unique fragrances, and fragrances probably your friends and relatives don't know much about, because they're fairly new houses. But if you do know about these houses, do let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out. But either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.